Right now, as you're watching this video, there's a voice in your head. You know the one I'm talking about. It's the voice that whispered, "This probably won't work for me." When you clicked on this video, the voice that tells you you're not smart enough, not talented enough, not worthy enough. The voice that has stolen more dreams, crushed more ambitions, and destroyed more potential than any external enemy ever could. That voice is self-doubt. And today, I'm going to show you how to silence it instantly using a hidden trick that most people will never discover. This isn't about positive thinking or fake confidence. This is about rewiring your brain at the neurological level in real time. What I'm about to share with you comes from cutting-edge neuroscience research that reveals something shocking. Self-doubt isn't a personality trait. It's not who you are, and it's not permanent. It's simply a neural pathway that can be changed in seconds. And by the end of this video, you'll have the exact technique to do it. But here's what makes this different from everything else you've tried. Most advice tells you to fight self-doubt, to overcome it, to push through it. That's like trying to win a war against yourself. What I'm going to show you is how to make self-doubt irrelevant by understanding its true nature and using your brain's own rewiring system against it. So, if you're ready to stop being held hostage by that voice in your head, if you're ready to unlock the confident version of yourself that's been waiting to emerge, then let's dive into the hidden truth about self-doubt that changes everything. Chapter 1. The Invisible Prison You Don't Know You're In. Here's something that will probably shock you. The average person experiences self-doubt approximately 60 times per day. That's once every 1.5 seconds during waking hours. It's happening so frequently that you don't even notice it anymore. It's become the background noise of your existence. Think about this morning. How many times did self-doubt creep in? When you looked in the mirror, did you have a thought about your appearance? When you thought about your goals, did a little voice question whether you could achieve them? When you interacted with someone, did you second-guess what you said or how you came across? Each of these moments is self-doubt in action, and it's happening so automatically that you think it's just normal thinking. But here's the reality that no one talks about. Self-doubt isn't thinking, it's conditioning. It's a learned response that your brain has been programmed to execute. And like any program, it can be rewritten. The problem is that most people believe self-doubt is protecting them. They think it's keeping them humble, realistic, or safe from disappointment. This is the greatest lie your mind tells you. Self-doubt doesn't protect you from failure. It guarantees mediocrity. It doesn't keep you safe. It keeps you small. It doesn't make you realistic. It makes you a prisoner of imaginary limitations. And the most insidious part is that it masquerades as wisdom, as being sensible, as being mature. But wisdom doesn't tell you that you can't. Wisdom helps you figure out how you can. Let me paint you a picture of what self-doubt really costs you. It's not just the big dreams you don't pursue. It's the conversations you don't start because you're worried about what people will think. It's the opportunities you don't apply for because you assume you're not qualified. It's the relationships you don't deepen because you're afraid of being vulnerable. It's the creative projects you don't begin because you're convinced they won't be good enough. It's the promotion you don't ask for because you believe you don't deserve it. Self-doubt operates like a sophisticated security system that's designed to keep intruders out. But it's been programmed with the wrong information. Instead of keeping out actual threats, it's keeping out opportunities. Growth, love, success, and joy. It's keeping out everything that would make your life extraordinary. And it's doing it so efficiently that you don't even realize what you're missing. But here's where it gets really interesting. From a neuroscience perspective, self-doubt creates what researchers call confirmation bias loops. Your brain, convinced that you're not capable, starts looking for evidence to support this belief. It notices every small failure, every awkward moment, every rejection, and files them away as proof that self-doubt was right to protect you. Meanwhile, it completely ignores or minimizes evidence of your capabilities, your successes, your growth, and your potential. This is why self-doubt feels so real and so convincing. Your brain has literally been collecting evidence for years to support the case that you should doubt yourself. But what if I told you that this evidence was gathered by a biased investigator who was only looking for one type of proof? What if I told you that there's an entire library of counter-evidence that your brain has been programmed to ignore? The most successful people in the world aren't successful because they don't experience self-doubt. They're successful because they've learned to recognize self-doubt for what it really is. A glitch in their mental software. They've learned to see it as information, not instruction. They feel the doubt, acknowledge it, and then make decisions based on their values, their goals, and their vision rather than their fears. This is the first crucial understanding. Self-doubt is not your voice. It's a voice that has been programmed into you by your experiences, your environment, your upbringing, and society's conditioning. It's no more you than a computer. Virus is the computer. And just like a computer virus, it can be identified, isolated, and removed. The reason most people struggle with self-doubt their entire lives is that they're trying to fight it on its own terms. They're trying to argue with it, convince it, or overcome it through willpower. But you can't argue with a program. You can't convince conditioning. You can't willpower your way out of automatic responses. You have to understand how the system works and then reprogram it. And that brings us to the most important revelation of all. Your brain is not fixed. The neural pathways that create self-doubt are not permanent. Every thought you think, every belief you hold, every automatic response you have exists as a pattern of electrical activity in your brain. And these patterns can be changed, weakened, or completely rewired. The science that proves this is called neuroplasticity, and it's about to change everything you thought you knew about yourself. Chapter 2. The Neuroplasticity Revolution That Changes Everything. For centuries, scientists believed that the adult brain was essentially fixed. They thought that after a certain age, your neural pathways were set in stone. Your personality was unchangeable and your mental patterns were permanent. This belief shaped everything: how we viewed personal development, how we approached therapy, how we understood human potential. Then came one of the most revolutionary discoveries in the history of neuroscience: neuroplasticity. The discovery that your brain is constantly rewiring itself, constantly forming new connections, constantly adapting and changing based on your thoughts, experiences, and behaviors. This wasn't just a minor adjustment to our understanding. This was a complete paradigm shift that changed everything we thought we knew about human potential. Here's what neuroplasticity means for you specifically. Every single limiting belief you have, every self-doubt pattern, every fear response, every confidence issue exists as a neural pathway in your brain. And neural pathways are not permanent structures. They're more like trails in a forest. The more they're used, the more defined they become. The less they're used, the more they fade away. Think about self-doubt as a highway in your brain. Every time you doubt yourself, you're driving down that highway, making it wider, smoother, more established. Every time you question your abilities, you're adding another lane. Every time you assume you'll fail, you're reinforcing the infrastructure. After years of this, the self-doubt highway becomes a superhighway. The fastest, most efficient route your brain can take when processing information about yourself. But here's the incredible part. You can build new highways. You can construct confidence pathways, self-belief routes, and success-oriented neural networks. And because of something called neural competition, as you strengthen the new pathways, the old ones automatically weaken. It's not about fighting self-doubt. It's about making it obsolete by creating better options. The process works like this. Every thought sends electrical signals through your brain. When you think a thought repeatedly, those electrical signals create a stronger connection between neurons. The stronger the connection, the more likely the thought pattern is to fire automatically in the future. This is why self-doubt feels so automatic. You've literally trained your brain to be efficient at doubting yourself. But the same mechanism that created the problem can solve it. When you intentionally think thoughts of confidence, capability, and self-belief, you're sending different electrical signals through your brain. You're creating new neural pathways. And with consistent practice, these new pathways become stronger than the old ones. This isn't theory. This is measurable science. Brain scans show physical changes in neural structure within weeks of changing thought patterns. People who practice self-confidence building techniques show increased activity in areas of the brain associated with self-worth and decreased activity in areas associated with self-criticism and fear. One of the most fascinating studies involved people who simply imagined playing piano for 1 hour a day for 5 days. Brain scans showed that the neural pathways associated with playing piano strengthened almost as much as they did in people who actually played piano for the same amount of time. This proves that your brain responds to imagined experiences almost as powerfully as it responds to real ones. What does this mean for overcoming self-doubt? It means that you can literally think your way to confidence. You can imagine your way to self-belief. You can visualize your way to unshakable inner strength. And your brain will respond by rewiring itself to make these mental states your new default. But there's a specific way to do this that most people get wrong. You can't just think positive thoughts and hope for the best. You have to understand how neural pathway formation works and use specific techniques that maximize the rewiring process. First, you need to understand the concept of emotional intensity. Neural pathways form faster and stronger when emotions are involved. This is why traumatic experiences can create instant lasting changes in behavior. The emotional intensity of the experience makes the neural pathway formation more powerful. You can use this principle positively by combining your confidence-building thoughts with strong positive emotions. Second, you need to understand repetition with variation. Simply repeating the same positive thought over and over won't create lasting change. You need to approach your new confidence from different angles using different scenarios, different emotional states, and different sensory experiences. This creates a more robust neural network that's harder to override. Third, you need to understand implementation intention. This is the difference between wanting to be confident and having a specific plan for how confidence will show up in your life. Your brain needs concrete, specific images and scenarios to work with. Vague intentions create weak neural pathways. Specific, detailed intentions create strong ones. The most powerful part of neuroplasticity research is the discovery of state-dependent learning. This means that the mental and emotional state you're in when you form new neural pathways determines how easily you can access those pathways later. If you practice confidence while feeling calm and centered, you'll be able to access that confidence most easily when you're calm and centered. But if you practice confidence while feeling stressed or anxious, you'll be able to access it even in challenging situations. This is why the technique I'm about to share with you is so powerful. It's designed to work with your brain's natural neuroplasticity mechanisms to create instant lasting change in how you experience yourself. It's not about positive thinking. It's about strategic neural pathway reconstruction. Chapter 3. The instant neural rewiring technique that stops self-doubt. Now we get to the technique that changes everything. This isn't just another confidence building exercise. This is a precise scientifically based method for instantly rewiring the neural pathways that create self-doubt. I call it the neural override protocol. And it works by hijacking your brain's own neuroplasticity mechanisms to create immediate and lasting change. The technique is based on 3 core principles from neuroscience: neural interruption, pathway redirection, and emotional anchoring. Each step is designed to work with your brain's natural processes rather than against them. Here's exactly how it works. Step 1 is neural interruption. The moment you notice self-doubt arising, you're going to do something that sounds strange but is scientifically powerful. You're going to thank your brain. You're going to say either out loud or in your mind, "Thank you, brain, for trying to protect me, but I've got this handled." This does something crucial. It acknowledges the self-doubt without fighting it, which prevents the resistance response that makes doubt stronger. When you fight self-doubt, you create what neuroscientists call neural resistance. Your brain interprets your fighting as confirmation that there really is something to be worried about. So, it doubles down on the doubt. But when you thank your brain, you're essentially telling it that you've received the message and you're choosing to handle the situation consciously rather than automatically. Step 2 is pathway redirection. Immediately after thanking your brain, you're going to ask yourself one specific question. What would the most confident version of myself do right now? This question is neurologically powerful because it activates your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for higher-order thinking and decision-making, while simultaneously accessing your memory banks for examples of confidence. Your brain will automatically start searching for times when you felt confident, times when you've succeeded, times when you've handled challenges well. This search process begins building new neural connections between your current situation and your confident memories. You're literally rewiring your brain to associate the present moment with confidence rather than doubt. Step 3 is emotional anchoring. This is where the magic happens. You're going to do something called embodied confidence. You're going to physically change your posture, your breathing, and your facial expression to match how you would look and feel if you were completely confident in this moment. Stand or sit up straight. Pull your shoulders back. Lift your chin slightly. Take 3 deep breaths, making your exhale longer than your inhale. Put a slight smile on your face. Hold this posture for at least 30 seconds while continuing to ask yourself what the most confident version of yourself would do. Here's why this works. Your brain doesn't just influence your body. Your body influences your brain. When you change your physical state, you send different signals to your brain about how you should feel. Research shows that confident posture increases testosterone and decreases cortisol within minutes, creating the actual neurochemical state of confidence. But there's a 4th step that makes this technique extraordinarily powerful: mental rehearsal. While you're in this confident physical state, you're going to mentally rehearse handling the current situation with complete confidence. You're going to see yourself succeeding, feeling calm and capable, and achieving the outcome you want. This mental rehearsal is incredibly important because your brain doesn't distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and real ones. When you rehearse confidence, you're creating neural pathways as if you've actually experienced being confident in this situation. You're pre-programming your brain for success. The entire process takes less than 2 minutes. But it creates changes that last for hours, days, or even permanently. Each time you use this technique, you're strengthening the confidence pathways and weakening the doubt pathways. You're training your brain to choose confidence as its default response. But here's what makes this technique different from everything else you've tried. It works with self-doubt rather than against it. Most confidence techniques try to suppress or ignore doubt, which creates internal conflict and makes the doubt stronger. This technique acknowledges the doubt, redirects it, and transforms it into fuel for confidence. Let me give you a specific example of how this works in real life. Imagine you're about to give a presentation and self-doubt starts creeping in. Your brain starts thinking, what if I mess up? What if people judge me? What if I forget what to say? Instead of fighting these thoughts or trying to think positively, you use the neural override protocol. First, you thank your brain. Thank you, brain, for trying to protect me from embarrassment, but I've got this handled. This immediately reduces the intensity of the doubt because you're not creating resistance. Second, you ask the redirection question. What would the most confident version of myself do right now? Your brain immediately starts accessing memories of times you've been confident, times you've spoken well, times you've connected with an audience. Third, you embody confidence. You stand tall, breathe deeply, smile slightly, and hold this posture while your brain processes the confidence memories and creates new neural connections. Fourth, you mentally rehearse. You see yourself giving an amazing presentation, connecting with the audience, delivering your points clearly and feeling proud of your performance. The result: within 2 minutes, you've literally rewired your brain to associate this presentation with confidence rather than fear. You've created new neural pathways that support success rather than self-doubt. And because you've done this while in a confident physical state, your brain has anchored these new pathways to the neurochemical state of confidence. The technique becomes more powerful with practice because each time you use it, you're strengthening the same neural networks. Eventually, confidence becomes your automatic response rather than doubt. You've literally reprogrammed your brain's default settings. Chapter 4. Breaking free from the validation trap. There's a hidden addiction that's keeping you trapped in self-doubt. And most people don't even realize they have it. It's the addiction to external validation. The need for other people's approval, recognition, and acceptance to feel good about yourself. This addiction is one of the primary fuel sources for self-doubt. And until you break free from it, you'll always be vulnerable to having your confidence shaken by other people's opinions. Here's how the validation trap works. Somewhere along the way, probably in childhood, you learned that your worth was conditional. You learned that you were valuable when you performed well, when you made others happy. When you met expectations, you learned that love, acceptance, and approval had to be earned. This conditioning created a neural pathway that equates your self-worth with external feedback. The problem is that external validation is inherently unreliable. People are inconsistent, distracted, and often focused on their own problems. They might not notice your achievements. They might be having a bad day when they interact with you. Or they might have their own insecurities that cause them to withhold approval. When you depend on external validation for your sense of self-worth, you're essentially handing control of your confidence to random, unpredictable factors. But there's something even more insidious about the validation trap. It trains your brain to look for evidence of what others think of you rather than focusing on your own growth, progress, and values. You become hypersensitive to facial expressions, tone of voice, body language, and social cues. You start interpreting neutral responses as negative. You begin reading rejection into situations where none exists. This hypersensitivity to external feedback creates a state of chronic anxiety because you're constantly scanning your environment for threats to your self-worth. Your nervous system is always on alert, always ready to defend against potential criticism or rejection. This state of hypervigilance is exhausting and makes it impossible to access your natural confidence and creativity. The validation trap also creates what psychologists call performance anxiety. When your self-worth depends on external approval, every interaction becomes a performance. Every conversation becomes a test. Every social situation becomes an opportunity to either gain or lose value. This pressure to perform perfectly is one of the primary sources of self-doubt because perfection is impossible and the fear of making mistakes becomes overwhelming. But here's what most people don't understand. The need for external validation is actually a symptom of disconnection from your authentic self. When you know who you are, when you're clear about your values, when you understand your inherent worth, external opinions become interesting information rather than determinants of your self-value. Breaking free from the validation trap requires a fundamental shift in how you define yourself. Instead of defining yourself through other people's eyes, you need to learn to see yourself through your own eyes. Instead of measuring your worth by external achievements, you need to learn to value your internal growth. Instead of seeking approval from others, you need to learn to approve of yourself. This shift isn't just philosophical, it's neurological. When you stop depending on external validation, your brain stops producing the stress hormones associated with social anxiety. Your nervous system relaxes. Your creativity increases. Your natural confidence emerges. You become more authentic because you're not constantly adjusting your behavior to gain approval. The first step in breaking the validation trap is recognizing how often you seek external validation throughout the day. Start paying attention to how many times you check social media for likes and comments. Notice how often you fish for compliments or reassurance. Observe how much you modify your behavior based on what you think others want to see. Become aware of how often you interpret other people's reactions as commentary on your worth. This awareness is crucial because you can't change what you don't notice. Most people seek validation so automatically that they don't even realize they're doing it. It's become an unconscious habit, a default response to uncertainty or insecurity. By bringing this pattern into conscious awareness, you create the opportunity to choose different responses. The second step is learning to validate yourself. This means celebrating your own achievements, acknowledging your own growth and appreciating your own efforts regardless of whether anyone else notices or cares. It means developing an internal feedback system that's more reliable and more accurate than external feedback. Self-validation isn't about being arrogant or ignoring constructive feedback. It's about having a stable sense of self-worth that doesn't fluctuate based on other people's moods, opinions, or attention levels. It's about knowing your own value independent of external confirmation. The third step is developing what I call outcome independence. This means taking action based on your values and goals rather than on the potential for approval or recognition. It means doing what you believe is right even when others might not understand or support your choices. It means pursuing your authentic path even when it doesn't lead to external validation. Outcome independence is incredibly liberating because it frees you from the exhausting cycle of seeking approval and fearing rejection. When you're not attached to specific outcomes or responses from others, you can be fully present in your interactions. You can be authentic because you're not trying to create any particular impression. You can take risks because you're not afraid of judgment. The fourth step is learning to trust your own judgment. The validation trap exists because you've learned to doubt your own perceptions, opinions, and decisions. You've been conditioned to believe that others are better judges of your worth, your choices, and your potential than you are. But this is fundamentally false. You are the only person who has access to your internal experience. You're the only one who knows your intentions, your efforts, your challenges, and your growth. You're the only one who can accurately assess whether you're living in alignment with your values and moving toward your goals. Other people can offer perspectives and feedback, but they can never be better judges of your life than you are. Learning to trust your own judgment requires practice and patience. Start with small decisions and notice that you're capable of making good choices. Pay attention to your intuition and notice that it often provides valuable guidance. Reflect on your past decisions and notice that even your mistakes led to learning and growth. The final step in breaking the validation trap is developing what I call internal celebration. This means acknowledging and appreciating your efforts, your progress, and your achievements regardless of whether anyone else notices or celebrates them. It means being your own biggest supporter, your own encourager, your own brand. Internal celebration creates a positive feedback loop that strengthens your self-worth and confidence. When you regularly acknowledge your own value, your brain creates neural pathways that support self-appreciation. You become less dependent on external recognition because you're consistently providing internal recognition. Chapter 5. Silencing your inner critic forever. Your inner critic is not your voice. This is the most important thing you need to understand about that harsh judgmental commentary running through your mind. That voice that tells you you're not good enough, that points out every flaw, that predicts failure and catastrophe. That's not you thinking. That's a program running in your subconscious. And like any program, it can be identified, understood, and ultimately shut down. Most people believe their inner critic is trying to help them. They think it's keeping them humble, motivating them to improve, or protecting them from disappointment. This is the greatest deception your mind plays on you. Your inner critic is not a helpful advisor. It's a saboteur. It's not keeping you safe. It's keeping you small. It's not motivating you to improve. It's paralyzing you with perfectionism and fear. The inner critic develops early in life as a response to criticism, rejection, or invalidation. When you were young and someone criticized you, your developing brain created a defense mechanism. If you could criticize yourself first, maybe you could avoid external criticism. If you could point out your own flaws, maybe others wouldn't notice them. If you could predict your own failures, maybe you could prevent them. This defense mechanism served a purpose when you were powerless and dependent on others for survival and care. But now it's become a tyrant that rules your mental landscape, creating constant stress, anxiety, and self-doubt. What once protected you is now destroying you. The inner critic operates through several distinct strategies, and recognizing these strategies is the first step in disarming it. The first strategy is catastrophizing. Taking any small problem or mistake and imagining the worst possible outcomes. You make a minor error at work and your inner critic immediately starts predicting that you'll be fired, that you'll never find another job, that you'll end up homeless and alone. The second strategy is comparison. Your inner critic constantly measures you against others and always finds you lacking. It focuses on other people's highlights while comparing them to your behind-the-scenes struggles. It ignores your unique circumstances, your different starting points, your personal challenges, and creates impossible standards based on other people's apparent successes. The third strategy is perfectionism. Your inner critic sets impossibly high standards and then uses any failure to meet those standards as evidence of your inadequacy. It tells you that anything less than perfect is failure, that making mistakes means you're incompetent, that struggling means you're weak. The fourth strategy is mind readating. Your inner critic assumes it knows what other people are thinking about you. And it always assumes they're thinking something negative. Someone doesn't respond to your text immediately, and your inner critic decides they're angry with you. Someone seems distracted during a conversation and your inner critic concludes they find you boring. The fifth strategy is fortune telling. Your inner critic predicts negative outcomes for everything you attempt. It tells you that you'll fail before you even try, that you'll be rejected before you even apply, that you'll be embarrassed before you even speak up. These strategies might sound familiar because they're running constantly in the background of your consciousness. You've become so accustomed to this internal commentary that you think it's normal that everyone experiences this level of self-criticism. But this is not normal and it's definitely not helpful. The inner critic creates what neuroscientists call cognitive load. It uses up mental energy that could be directed toward creativity, problem solving, and growth. When part of your brain is constantly engaged in self-criticism, less processing power is available for the thinking that actually moves your life forward. Research shows that people with highly active inner critics have increased activity in the brain regions associated with threat detection and decreased activity in regions associated with creative thinking and executive function. Essentially, your inner critic keeps your brain in a state of chronic stress that impairs your ability to perform at your best. But here's the powerful truth. You can learn to distinguish between your authentic voice and your inner critic's voice. Your authentic voice is curious, encouraging, and solution-focused. It acknowledges challenges without catastrophizing. It recognizes mistakes without condemning. It sees problems as opportunities for growth rather than evidence of inadequacy. Your inner critic's voice is harsh, absolute, and fear-based. It uses words like always, never, should, and must. It focuses on what's wrong rather than what's possible. It predicts disaster and assumes the worst about yourself and others. The technique for silencing your inner critic is based on a principle from cognitive behavioral therapy called cognitive diffusion. Instead of trying to argue with your inner critic or prove it wrong, you learn to see its thoughts as mental events rather than facts. You learn to observe the criticism without believing it or being controlled by it. Here's the specific process. When you notice your inner critic starting its commentary, you're going to do something that sounds simple but is profoundly powerful. You're going to say, "There's my inner critic again." That's it. You're not going to argue with it, analyze it, or try to stop it. You're just going to name it. This simple act of naming creates what psychologists call metacognitive awareness. Awareness of your own thinking processes. When you can observe your thoughts rather than being consumed by them, they lose their power over you. You create space between yourself and the criticism. Space where choice becomes possible. After naming your inner critic, you're going to ask yourself one question. What would I say to a good friend in this situation? This question activates your compassionate mind and gives you access to the kind, encouraging voice that you naturally use with people you care about. Most people are far kinder to their friends than they are to themselves. But this question helps you extend that same kindness inward. The goal isn't to eliminate your inner critic completely. That's neither possible nor necessary. The goal is to reduce its volume and frequency while strengthening your authentic, compassionate voice. Over time, as you consistently name the inner critic and activate your compassionate voice, the neural pathways supporting self-criticism weaken, while the pathways supporting self-compassion strengthen. This process is like training a new muscle. At first, it requires conscious effort and attention, but with practice, it becomes automatic. Eventually, self-compassion becomes your default response rather than self-criticism. You develop what researchers call psychological resilience, the ability to bounce back from setbacks, learn from mistakes, and maintain confidence in the face of challenges. The transformation isn't just psychological, it's physiological. When you silence your inner critic and activate self-compassion, your stress hormones decrease. Your immune system strengthens and your brain function improves. You literally become healthier and more capable when you learn to treat yourself with the same kindness you would show a good friend. Chapter 6. The 5 Fatal Mistakes That Keep You Trapped in Self-Doubt. Now that you understand the core technique for rewiring self-doubt, I need to warn you about the 5 critical mistakes that cause most people to fail when trying to build lasting confidence. These mistakes are so common and so subtle that even people who understand the science of neuroplasticity fall into these traps. Avoiding these mistakes is the difference between temporary improvement and permanent transformation. The first fatal mistake is trying to eliminate self-doubt completely. This sounds counterintuitive, but the goal is not to never experience doubt again. Doubt is actually a normal human emotion that serves important functions. It can signal when you need more information, when you should prepare more thoroughly, or when genuine risks exist. The problem isn't doubt itself. It's when doubt becomes your default response to everything. When it paralyzes you, instead of informing you. When you try to eliminate doubt completely, you create internal resistance. Your brain interprets this as a threat to its protective mechanisms and it fights back by generating even more doubt. This is why people who try to force themselves to feel confident often end up feeling more anxious and uncertain than before. You're essentially declaring war on part of your own mind. And internal wars are exhausting and unwinnable. Instead of trying to eliminate doubt, your goal should be to change your relationship with it. When doubt arises, instead of seeing it as evidence that you're not capable, see it as information that you can use to prepare better or make more informed decisions. Instead of letting doubt control your actions, let it inform your actions while you make decisions based on your values and goals. The second fatal mistake is practicing the techniques only when you're already feeling confident. This is like only exercising when you're already fit. The neural rewiring happens most powerfully when you practice the techniques while you're actually experiencing self-doubt. Those moments of discomfort and uncertainty are when your brain is most open to creating new pathways. Many people avoid using confidence techniques when they're feeling doubtful because it feels fake or forced. They think they need to wait until they feel better to practice feeling better. But this backwards approach ensures that the old neural pathways remain strongest. You have to be willing to practice confidence while feeling doubtful, to embody strength while feeling weak, to act with certainty while feeling uncertain. This doesn't mean pretending you don't feel doubt or suppressing your emotions. It means acknowledging the doubt while choosing to respond from a place of strength. It means feeling the fear and taking aligned action anyway. It means using the techniques precisely when you need them most, not when they're easiest to use. The third fatal mistake is expecting linear progress. Neuroplasticity doesn't work like a straight line from point A to point B, it works more like a spiral staircase. You're always moving upward, but sometimes it feels like you're going in circles or even moving backward. Some days you'll feel confident and capable. Other days, despite all your practice, the old doubt patterns will resurface with surprising intensity. This apparent regression is actually a normal part of the rewiring process. Your brain has backup systems and redundant pathways. When you start weakening the primary self-doubt pathways, your brain might temporarily activate secondary or tertiary doubt pathways. This can make it feel like you're losing progress when you're actually making profound changes at deeper levels. Understanding this prevents you from giving up during the inevitable challenging periods when old patterns resurface. Instead of seeing it as failure, recognize it as your brain's last-ditch effort to maintain familiar patterns. These resurgences often happen right before major breakthroughs, like the darkness before dawn. The fourth fatal mistake is using the techniques mechanically without emotional engagement. Your brain responds to emotional intensity, not just repetition. Going through the motions of confident posture or positive self-talk without genuine feeling creates weak neural pathways that are easily overwhelmed by emotionally charged doubt patterns. This is why visualization works better when you can actually feel the emotions of success. Why affirmations work better when you can generate genuine belief. And why confident posture works better when you can embody the feeling of strength. Your brain remembers emotionally significant experiences more powerfully than neutral ones. To avoid this mistake, focus on generating authentic, positive emotions during your practice. Remember times when you felt genuinely proud of yourself, genuinely capable, genuinely strong. Use these emotional memories to fuel your confidence-building practices. The combination of specific techniques with genuine positive emotion creates the most powerful neural changes. The fifth fatal mistake is practicing in isolation without real-world application. You can spend hours visualizing confidence, rehearsing positive self-talk, and practicing powerful posture. But if you don't apply these skills in actual challenging situations, the neural pathways remain theoretical rather than practical. Your brain learns through experience, not just imagination. While mental practice is valuable, it must be combined with behavioral practice. You have to actually speak up in meetings, actually start conversations with strangers, actually apply for opportunities that stretch you. Each real-world application strengthens the confidence pathways and proves to your brain that the new patterns work in actual life. Start with smaller challenges and gradually work your way up to bigger ones. Each success, no matter how small, provides evidence that your new confident responses are reliable and effective. This evidence accumulates over time, creating unshakable self-belief based on actual experience rather than just positive thinking. The key to avoiding all these mistakes is approaching confidence building as a practice rather than a destination. Like physical fitness, confidence requires ongoing attention and regular exercise. You don't go to the gym once and expect to be fit forever. And you don't practice confidence techniques once and expect to be confident forever. But also, like physical fitness, the results compound over time. Each practice session makes the next one easier. Each real-world application makes the next one more natural. Each success makes the next challenge less intimidating. What starts as conscious effort eventually becomes unconscious competence. Chapter 7. The Confidence Spiral. How Small Wins Create Unstoppable Momentum. There's a powerful psychological phenomenon that most people never learn to harness deliberately, but it's the secret behind every major confidence transformation. It's called the confidence spiral. And understanding how to create and amplify it will accelerate your progress beyond what you thought possible. The confidence spiral works like this. Small confident actions create small positive results which increase your belief in your capabilities, which makes you more likely to take bigger confident actions which create bigger positive results which further increase your self-belief, and so on. Each cycle builds upon the previous one, creating exponential rather than linear growth in confidence. Most people try to build confidence by taking big dramatic actions, applying for dream jobs, starting major projects, or making significant life changes. While these actions can certainly build confidence if they succeed, they also carry high risk of failure. And failure at this level can actually damage confidence and reinforce self-doubt patterns. The confidence spiral approach is different. It starts with actions that are challenging enough to require courage, but small enough to virtually guarantee success. These small wins prove to your brain that confident action leads to positive outcomes, which makes your brain more willing to support confident action in the future. Here's how to deliberately create confidence spirals in your life. First, identify your current confidence comfort zone. This is the level of challenge where you feel some nervousness but not overwhelming anxiety. Where success requires effort but is highly probable. This might be speaking up once in a meeting, introducing yourself to one new person at an event, or sharing one piece of creative work. The key is choosing actions that require you to override self-doubt, but aren't so challenging that they trigger your brain's threat detection systems. If an action feels terrifying, it's probably too big for your current confidence level. If an action feels completely comfortable, it's probably too small to create meaningful growth. Second, use the neural override protocol before taking each confident action. Remember, thank your brain for trying to protect you. Ask what the most confident version of yourself would do. Embody confident physiology and mentally rehearse success. This preparation primes your nervous system for confident action and increases the likelihood of positive outcomes. Third, immediately after completing each confident action, take time to acknowledge and celebrate the win. This step is crucial because it reinforces the neural pathways you just strengthened. Tell yourself, "I did it," or "That was brave," or "I'm proud of myself for taking that action." Let yourself feel good about the accomplishment. Even if it seems small from the outside, your brain pays attention to what you pay attention to. When you celebrate small confident actions, you're telling your brain that this is important, that this is the kind of behavior you want to repeat. This positive reinforcement makes your brain more likely to support similar actions in the future. Fourth, gradually increase the challenge level. Once you've successfully completed confident actions at your current level several times, it's time to stretch to the next level. The key word here is gradually. Don't jump from speaking up once in a meeting to giving a keynote presentation. Go from speaking up once to speaking up twice, or from sharing one idea to asking one question. Each level should feel like a natural progression from the previous one. If you find yourself repeatedly avoiding actions at a particular level, it probably means you've increased the challenge too quickly. Step back to a more comfortable level and build more success there before advancing. Fifth, track your confidence spiral in writing. Keep a simple log of confident actions you take and positive results you experience. This serves several important purposes. It provides concrete evidence of your growth. It helps you recognize patterns in what works best for you. And it creates a reference you can return to when self-doubt tries to convince you that you're not making progress. Your confidence log doesn't need to be elaborate. A simple note like "Spoke up in team meeting," "My idea was well received," or "Started conversation with stranger at coffee shop, had nice chat for 5 minutes" is sufficient. The act of writing it down makes the experience more memorable and reinforces the positive neural pathways. The confidence spiral becomes self-sustaining over time. As you accumulate evidence of your capability through small wins, your baseline confidence level increases. Actions that once felt challenging become comfortable, and you naturally seek out bigger challenges. Your identity begins to shift from someone who doubts themselves to someone who takes confident action. This identity shift is crucial because identity drives behavior more powerfully than willpower. When you see yourself as a confident person, confident actions feel natural and automatic. When you see yourself as someone who takes action despite uncertainty, courage becomes part of your character rather than something you have to force. One of the most powerful aspects of the confidence spiral is that it becomes visible to others. People start noticing your increased presence, your willingness to contribute, your positive energy. This external feedback further reinforces your internal changes and often creates opportunities you wouldn't have had access to before. But here's something important. The confidence spiral isn't just about taking action in the external world. It also includes internal actions like challenging negative thoughts, practicing self-compassion, and maintaining positive self-talk. Each time you catch your inner critic and respond with kindness instead of self-attack, you're taking a confident action that deserves celebration. The spiral effect also applies to how you handle setbacks. As your confidence grows, failures and rejections become information rather than evidence of inadequacy. You develop what psychologists call resilient attributional style. The tendency to see setbacks as temporary, specific, and changeable rather than permanent, pervasive, and personal. This resilient thinking style creates an upward spiral even during challenging periods. Instead of setbacks destroying your confidence, they become opportunities to practice emotional resilience, problem-solving skills, and persistent action. Each time you bounce back from a setback, you prove to yourself that you're stronger than your circumstances. Chapter 8. Rewiring Social Confidence. Never feel awkward again. Social confidence is where self-doubt shows up most painfully for most people. It's one thing to doubt yourself in private, but when that doubt manifests in social situations, when you stumble over words, when you can't think of anything to say, when you assume people are judging you, it feels like your inadequacy is on display for everyone to see. But here's what you need to understand. What you interpret as social awkwardness is usually just your nervous system being hijacked by ancient survival programming that's completely irrelevant to modern social situations. Your brain is treating casual conversations like life or death situations. And when your brain thinks you're in danger, it shuts down the higher-order thinking functions that allow for smooth social interaction. This survival programming developed when humans lived in small tribes where social rejection could literally mean death. Being cast out from the group meant losing access to food, shelter, and protection. So, your brain developed extremely sensitive social threat detection systems designed to keep you safe by avoiding any behavior that might lead to rejection. The problem is that these systems haven't been updated for modern life. Your brain can't tell the difference between being rejected by your life-sustaining tribe and having an awkward conversation with a coworker. It responds to both situations with the same fight-or-flight response that makes smooth social interaction nearly impossible. When your nervous system is activated by perceived social threat, several things happen that create the experience of social awkwardness. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for executive function, working memory, and social reasoning, goes offline. This is why you can't think of anything intelligent to say, why you forget people's names immediately after being introduced, and why you replay conversations later wishing you had said something different. Simultaneously, your brain starts scanning for threats, which means you become hyper-aware of any signs that the other person might be judging you negatively. You notice every facial expression, every pause in conversation, every shift in body language, and you interpret neutral or ambiguous signals as negative. This creates a feedback loop where your anxiety about being judged makes you more likely to perceive judgment, which increases your anxiety. Your body also responds to perceived social threat by activating the sympathetic nervous system. Your heart rate increases, your breathing becomes shallow, your muscles tense, and stress hormones flood your system. These physical changes are obvious to you and often obvious to others, which creates additional anxiety about your anxiety being noticed. But here's the breakthrough insight. You can train your nervous system to remain calm in social situations by gradually exposing yourself to social interaction while practicing specific calming techniques. This process, called systematic desensitization, literally rewires your brain's response to social situations. The technique starts with understanding that social confidence isn't about being the most charismatic person in the room or never feeling nervous. It's about being able to remain present and authentic even when you feel nervous. It's about having access to your natural personality and intelligence even when your nervous system is somewhat activated. Here's the specific protocol for rewiring social confidence. Before entering any social situation, you're going to prepare your nervous system using a technique called physiological downregulation. This involves taking control of your breathing, your posture, and your facial expression to signal safety to your brain. Take 5 deep breaths where your exhale is longer than your inhale. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system and tells your brain that you're safe. Stand or sit with confident posture. Shoulders back, spine straight, head level. This sends signals to your brain that you're capable and in control. Put a slight, genuine smile on your face. This releases endorphins and creates positive emotional states that support social connection. During social interactions, you're going to use what I call anchor phrases. Specific things you can say that require minimal creativity, but keep conversations flowing naturally. These phrases serve as bridges when your mind goes blank, giving your nervous system time to settle while keeping the interaction moving forward. Examples of anchor phrases include, "That's interesting. Tell me more about that. How did you get into that? What's that been like for you? And I hadn't thought about it that way before." These phrases work because they shift focus to the other person, which takes pressure off you while encouraging them to share more, which gives you more material to respond to. The key insight about social confidence is that most people are far more focused on themselves than they are on judging you. They're thinking about how they're coming across, what they're going to say next, their own insecurities and concerns. The spotlight effect, the tendency to overestimate how much others are paying attention to you, is one of the primary sources of social anxiety. When you realize that people are mostly thinking about themselves, it becomes much easier to relax in social situations. That awkward thing you said that you've been replaying in your mind, the other person probably forgot about it within minutes because they were too busy thinking about their own contribution to the conversation. Another powerful technique for social confidence is something called curiosity over performance. Instead of trying to be interesting, impressive, or entertaining, focus on being genuinely curious about the other person. Ask questions because you actually want to know the answers. Show interest in their experiences, their perspectives, their stories. This approach works because it takes the pressure off you to perform and puts it on them to share. Most people love talking about themselves and their experiences. So when you're genuinely curious, you're actually giving them a gift. Curiosity also activates the learning centers in your brain, which are incompatible with threat detection systems. When you're in learning mode, you can't simultaneously be in threat detection mode. Practice what I call social experiments rather than social performances. Approach conversations with the attitude of "I wonder what will happen if I try this" rather than "I need to make a good impression." This experimental mindset removes the pressure for specific outcomes and allows you to be more spontaneous and authentic. Start with low-stakes social interactions where the outcome doesn't matter much. Conversations with cashiers, casual chats with neighbors, brief exchanges with strangers in elevators. Use these interactions to practice staying present, asking questions, and sharing authentic responses without worrying about creating lasting impressions. As your comfort level increases, gradually move to higher stakes interactions, networking events, social gatherings, deeper conversations with people you care about. Each successful interaction builds evidence that you can handle social situations competently, which reduces your nervous system's tendency to perceive them as threats. The goal isn't to become someone who never feels nervous in social situations. The goal is to become someone who can feel nervous and still show up authentically. Someone whose nervous system settles quickly rather than spiraling into anxiety. Someone who can access their natural intelligence and personality even when they feel activated. Chapter 9. The Imposter Syndrome Antidote. Claiming your rightful place. Imposter syndrome is perhaps the most sophisticated form of self-doubt because it specifically targets your successes and achievements. Just when you should be feeling most confident, when you've been promoted, when you've achieved a goal, when others recognize your capabilities. Imposter syndrome whispers that you don't deserve it, that you fooled everyone, that you're about to be exposed as a fraud. This psychological phenomenon affects up to 70% of people at some point in their lives. But it's particularly common among high achievers. The more successful you become, the more imposter syndrome tries to convince you that your success is due to luck, timing, or deception rather than your actual capabilities. Understanding imposter syndrome requires understanding how your brain processes success and failure differently. When you fail or make mistakes, your brain has a clear explanation. You weren't good enough. You didn't try hard enough. You don't have what it takes. These explanations, while painful, feel internally consistent with self-doubt patterns. But when you succeed, especially when you succeed beyond your expectations, your brain struggles to integrate this information with existing self-doubt beliefs. Success contradicts the narrative that you're not capable. So, your brain has to find alternative explanations. Instead of updating its beliefs about your capabilities, it maintains the self-doubt narrative by attributing success to external factors. This creates the core experience of imposter syndrome. The feeling that your achievements don't reflect your true abilities. That you've somehow tricked people into overestimating your competence and that eventually everyone will discover the truth about your inadequacy. It's a way for your brain to maintain familiar self-doubt patterns even in the face of contradictory evidence. Imposter syndrome manifests in several distinct patterns. The perfectionist imposter sets impossibly high standards and focuses intensely on any mistakes or areas for improvement while discounting overall success. The expert imposter fears being exposed as inexperienced or unknowledgeable and avoids situations where they might not have all the answers. The soloist imposter believes that needing help or support is a sign of weakness and tries to handle everything independently. The natural genius imposter expects to master things quickly and easily and sees struggle or effort as evidence of inadequacy. The Superwoman or Superman imposter tries to excel in all areas of life simultaneously and feels like a fraud if they can't maintain perfect performance across all domains. Each of these patterns represents a different way that imposter syndrome protects self-doubt beliefs from being challenged by success. By maintaining the narrative that you're not truly capable, imposter syndrome ensures that your achievements don't threaten your brain's familiar identity as someone who should doubt themselves. The antidote to imposter syndrome isn't trying to convince yourself that you deserve your success or attempting to eliminate all feelings of uncertainty about your capabilities. The antidote is learning to reframe your relationship with both success and uncertainty in ways that support continued growth rather than self-doubt. The first step is recognizing that feeling like an imposter is often a sign that you're growing, stretching, and taking on challenges that are expanding your capabilities. When you're doing things you've never done before, it's natural to feel uncertain about your ability to handle them well. This uncertainty isn't evidence that you don't belong. It's evidence that you're pushing your boundaries. Reframe imposter feelings as growth feelings rather than fraud feelings. When you feel uncertain about your qualifications for a role, remind yourself that competence develops through experience, not before it. When you feel like you don't know enough, remind yourself that learning is an ongoing process, not a prerequisite for getting started. The second step is developing what I call evidence-based self-assessment. Instead of relying on feelings to determine your worthiness, start collecting concrete evidence of your capabilities, contributions, and growth. Keep a record of positive feedback you receive, problems you solve, goals you achieve, and skills you develop. This evidence serves as a reality check when imposter syndrome tries to convince you that your success is undeserved. You can refer to specific examples of your competence, specific instances where your contributions made a difference, specific skills you've developed through effort and practice. The third step is understanding that everyone is making it up as they go along to some degree. The people who seem most confident and competent in their roles are often figuring things out in real time, learning from mistakes, and adapting their approach based on new information. The difference is that they don't interpret this uncertainty as evidence of inadequacy. Professional competence isn't about having all the answers or never making mistakes. It's about being able to learn quickly, adapt to new situations, solve problems creatively, and recover from setbacks effectively. These meta skills are more important than domain-specific knowledge and can be transferred across different roles and situations. The fourth step is claiming your achievements without qualification or deflection. When someone compliments your work, resist the urge to minimize it or attribute it to external factors instead of saying it was nothing or I just got lucky. Practice saying thank you and allowing yourself to feel proud of your accomplishments. This isn't about becoming arrogant or taking credit for things you didn't do. It's about accurately acknowledging your contributions and allowing yourself to feel good about your efforts and results. When you consistently deflect, praise or minimize achievements, you train your brain to discount positive evidence about your capabilities. The fifth step is embracing what I call confident uncertainty. This means being comfortable with not knowing everything while still taking action and making decisions. It means being willing to learn in public, to ask questions, to admit when you don't know something, and to figure things out as you go. Confident uncertainty is the opposite of imposter syndrome because it accepts not knowing as a natural part of growth rather than evidence of inadequacy. When you're comfortable with uncertainty, you don't need to pretend to be more knowledgeable than you are, which eliminates the fear of being found out. The final step is understanding that worthiness isn't something you earn through achievement. It's something you recognize as inherent. You don't become worthy of opportunities, respect, or success by proving yourself. You're already worthy, and achievements are simply expressions of that inherent worth rather than evidence that creates it. This shift from earning worthiness to recognizing worthiness eliminates the core fear that drives imposter syndrome. The fear that you don't deserve what you have. When you understand that everyone deserves opportunities to grow, contribute, and succeed, you can focus on making the most of your opportunities, rather than questioning whether you deserve them. Chapter 10. Building Antifragile Confidence. Getting stronger from setbacks. Most people think the goal of confidence building is to become bulletproof. To reach a state where nothing can shake your self-belief or derail your progress. But this approach to confidence is actually fragile because it depends on things going well, on avoiding failure, on maintaining a perfect track record. The moment something goes wrong, fragile confidence shatters. There's a better way to build confidence that actually becomes stronger through adversity, that uses challenges and setbacks as fuel for growth rather than threats to self-worth. This is called antifragile confidence. And it's the difference between confidence that crumbles under pressure and confidence that thrives under pressure. The concept of antifragility comes from research showing that some systems don't just resist stress, they actually benefit from it. Your muscles become stronger when they're challenged by resistance. Your immune system becomes more robust when exposed to manageable threats. Your brain develops better problem-solving abilities when faced with complex challenges. Antifragile confidence works the same way. Instead of seeing setbacks as evidence that you're not capable, you see them as opportunities to develop capabilities you didn't know you had. Instead of viewing failure as proof that you should doubt yourself, you view failure as information that helps you adjust your approach and improve your strategy. This isn't about positive thinking or pretending that setbacks don't hurt. Disappointment, frustration, and temporary discouragement are natural responses to things not going as planned. Antifragile confidence allows you to feel these emotions fully while maintaining your core belief in your ability to learn, adapt, and ultimately succeed. The foundation of antifragile confidence is what psychologists call growth mindset. The belief that your abilities, intelligence, and talents can be developed through effort, learning, and persistence. When you have a growth mindset, challenges become opportunities to get better rather than tests of whether you're good enough. But antifragile confidence goes beyond growth mindset. It includes the understanding that setbacks and failures often contain the seeds of breakthrough insights, innovative solutions, and unexpected opportunities. Many of the most successful people in the world describe their biggest failures as their most valuable learning experiences and turning points. Building antifragile confidence requires a specific framework for processing setbacks that extracts maximum learning and growth from minimum suffering. This framework is based on what resilience researchers call post-traumatic growth, the phenomenon where people not only recover from difficult experiences but actually become stronger, wiser, and more capable as a result. The framework has 5 key components. First is rapid emotional processing. When something goes wrong, allow yourself to feel the initial disappointment, frustration, or discouragement for a specific limited time period. Don't try to suppress these emotions or jump immediately to lessons learned. Give yourself permission to feel bad about bad outcomes. Set a timer for 10-15 minutes and allow yourself to fully experience whatever emotions come up. This might include anger at the situation, disappointment in yourself, fear about future implications, or sadness about missed opportunities. The key is to feel these emotions consciously and completely rather than trying to avoid them or getting stuck in them. Second is perspective expansion. After processing the initial emotions, step back and look at the setback from multiple perspectives. Ask yourself, how will this matter in 1 year? What would I tell a friend in this situation? What would someone who cares about me say about this setback? How might this experience benefit me in ways I can't see yet? This perspective expansion prevents you from catastrophizing or making the setback more significant than it actually islanded. It also helps you access the part of your mind that's naturally wise, compassionate, and solution-focused rather than being trapped in the part that's reactive and self-critical. Third is learning extraction. This is where you mine the setback for insights, lessons, and growth opportunities. Ask yourself specific questions. What did I learn about myself from this experience? What skills do I need to develop? What would I do differently next time? What assumptions do I need to challenge? What new strategies do I want to try? The goal isn't to find simple answers, but to extract nuanced insights that will make you more effective in the future. Sometimes the most valuable learning isn't about what you did wrong, but about what you discovered about your resilience, your values, or your priorities. Fourth is identity reinforcement. This is where anti-fragile confidence differs most dramatically from fragile confidence. Instead of seeing setbacks as evidence against your capabilities, you see them as evidence of your willingness to take risks, push boundaries, and attempt difficult things. You reinforce your identity as someone who tries, who learns, who persists, who grows. Tell yourself, I'm the kind of person who goes for it even when success isn't guaranteed. I'm someone who takes intelligent risks and learns from the results. I'm building capabilities that will serve me for the rest of my life. This identity reinforcement is crucial because it maintains your self-respect and self-belief even when external results are disappointing. Fifth is strategic adaptation. This is where you take the insights from your learning extraction and use them to modify your approach, improve your strategy, or adjust your goals. The key is making changes based on learning rather than fear. Adapting your methods while maintaining your vision. This might mean developing new skills, seeking different resources, adjusting timelines, modifying strategies, or even pivoting to different approaches entirely. The willingness to adapt based on feedback while maintaining core confidence in your ability to succeed is a hallmark of anti-fragile confidence. Anti-fragile confidence also requires what I call scenario planning. The practice of mentally preparing for potential setbacks before they occur. This isn't pessimistic thinking, it's strategic thinking. When you've already considered how you'll respond to various challenges, you're less likely to be derailed when they actually happen. Spend time visualizing potential obstacles and mentally rehearsing how you'll handle them with grace, learning, and persistence. This mental preparation builds confidence in your ability to handle whatever comes up and reduces the emotional impact of setbacks when they occur. The ultimate goal of anti-fragile confidence is reaching a state where you're genuinely excited about challenges because you know they're opportunities for growth. When you've experienced getting stronger through adversity multiple times, you develop what researchers call challenge appraisal. The automatic tendency to see difficult situations as opportunities rather than threats. This transformation in how you perceive challenges changes everything about how you approach life. You become more willing to take risks because you're confident in your ability to handle whatever results. You become more resilient because you've proven to yourself that you can not just survive setbacks, but thrive because of them. You become genuinely unstoppable because your confidence no longer depends on things going well. It actually increases when things get difficult. Chapter 11. The Advanced Neural Rewiring Protocol. Quantum Leaps in Confidence. Now that you've mastered the basic neural override protocol and understand how to build anti-fragile confidence, it's time to learn the advanced techniques that create